So again, arguing with a liberal, I was trying to come out with this thing to make sense of he does the standard thing about they just want to get rid of the dangerous assault weapons, the most deadly weapons. Talking about gun control. So I tell him, the stats. I put all these facts up, all these questions. He can't answer any of them. He tells me how superior intellectually he is. I show him the facts from the government that says 2 to 12% of the crimes are committed with so-called assault weapons or rifles. Tell him the facts that the AR-15 shoots a 22 caliber bullet. It's a 2.23 or a 5.56 by 4.5 bullet, which is a 22 caliber bullet, which is not more powerful than your average hunting weapon. The only difference is they have a higher capacity than the average hunting weapon. He argues that nobody needs a high capacity weapons, so I've got another thing for that. But then goes on to, I tell him, here's tell me I'm wrong about everything I say, but then I give him facts, I give him details of what I'm talking about, and he can't give me anything back. My first thing was that I presented to him. He says that we can't stand up to the full might of the U.S. government, and you're an idiot if you think you could. Of course, you see what happened in Vietnam, Afghanistan, places like that, with people with small arms. And it's not that we would be able to do a lot with it. It's that the possibility's there, and nobody wants to have that possibility. If you don't have that possibility at all of shooting back, then you're stuck with Molotov cocktails and homemade shit like they do in France now. When they get mad, they do protests or signs, so they don't want to have anything more than that. So getting into the details of what I came to him with, I said, well, you've got, for example, you've got a government, number one, the liberals tell us, they're coming up with things like Proposition 47 in California. They don't want to punish criminals for crimes. They want to fine them. Crimes like stealing a car, identity theft, breaking and entering. And if somebody breaks and enters your house, then they could shoot you. They could hurt you. You could be a weaker person, an older person. They could come in with a knife, with a bat, with anything. And you won't be able to do anything against these people. A firearm would equalize you if you got 10 gang members coming in. Higher capacity magazine would help if you had gang members coming in. That, as well as they don't want you. If they don't want you. They don't want to punish people for crimes. Liberals are coming up with things to, let's not punish people for crimes. Let's not punish people for crossing the border. Let's let anybody cross the border. And criminals, like I did in another video, if you're a criminal, crossing the border is a very good proposition for you. Just like if you're in a heist movie, and these heist movies where they talk about they rob a bank, they want to go to Mexico to hide out. Well, that works both ways. People from other countries could come here and not be known and hide out from their crimes. So even though not everybody's a criminal who comes here across the border illegally, they're actually a criminal by breaking that law. But people who have criminal intent are attracted to those situations because they can come here and have anonymity and be anonymous and start over and commit more crimes, which is frequently done. There's a lot of people who, if you look at the criminals we do get here, they're not criminals because they're brown. They're not criminals because they're Mexican or Guatemalan or Honduras or El Salvador. They're criminals because criminals find this a good place to come to get away from what they did in the other countries. And so there's a way to get here easy. There's a border to cross, and there's a way to sneak in this country. So that's what they do. They sneak in because the opportunity exists, not because they do it because of their race. That said, my next point was, okay, so you want people not to punish people for crimes. You want people to the liberals want people to get away with all these things. And so then yet you don't want us to be able to defend ourselves from that. You got home invasions, people kicking doors in, people doing whatever they want. These criminals aren't going to give the guns up. They're going to have them. The criminals, the drug cartels. So basically, forget about fighting or taking on the government. Look at what would happen if that were to happen. Look at what keeps us safe from the other crap that goes on. That is my second point. My second point being that you have a situation with, they say that the police are hunting down black men and murdering black men. Black Lives Matter is connected with liberals. And they tell you that police can't be trusted and police are bad. Okay, so if this went through, then the police would have superior weapons. The police would have the assault weapons, or the police would have the high capacity guns. And so why would the police be allowed to have this if you can't trust the police because of their behavior? And if the police are truly dangerous, as you say, well, with that kind of situation, they could they could murder anybody they want. If the police are out of hand or out of control, as the liberals say that they are, they could do anything they wanted to anyone. So if the police ever choose to get out of control, or the police or go rogue or whatever, then they've got superior firepower. They could do whatever they want. They could take over a whole small town if they wanted to, because they have that firepower they're allowed to have. They're allowed to have something that regular citizens don't. My third point is why can Bloomberg and these tech celebrities and tech people will surely, if they will still be allowed to have armed bodyguards. The wealthy people and the people who have control would be allowed to have armed bodyguards, armed security. So that puts them above the common person. So last time I checked, we weren't a monarchy. So basically, we are affording the rich something we're not affording the regular citizen. So it becomes an income thing. So if you're a lower income person, you're not allowed to have the same access to the same protection that someone who has more money has. So explain those 3 points, and he has no argument for any of those 3 points. He just talks about how smart he is. So that said, what is the true argument? If you can have the whole argument is, well, the AR-15s are used in some mass shootings, and like I said, 2 to 12% of the shootings or crimes are committed with a rifle or a so-called assault rifle. They're the lowest. The handgun is the second. As soon as they get rid of those guns, if they did, they would come up with, well, the handgun is used way more. There was only 2 to 12. They won't tell you about the 2 to 12% of the rifles until it's a way to talk about the huger, much better, bigger, whatever percentage of handguns that were used. Well, you thought these are bad. The handguns are the real problem. We still have these handguns out there, and they were responsible for like 80% or more, 80 something percent of these things were handguns. So, we did what we did with the assault weapons. We need to do this next because this is the next logical step. And then they'll talk about the power of the rifle. The rifles are not any more powerful. They have, it's not more power. Okay, and they don't shoot at any faster a rate. They are semi-automatic, not fully automatic. They shoot one shot per trigger pull like a handgun. Semi-automatic like a Glock, like an automatic handgun, same thing. So therefore, where the power thing comes in is that their standard capacity is many times usually 20, 30 rounds of standard capacity in that magazine. Whereas the average handgun, higher capacity handgun, or average duty size handgun, you're looking at a 15 round to, sometimes 17, 20 round out of the box from a medium size, full size, duty size, police officer size handgun, or in the medium size. Not the concealed carry guns. They're getting where they have more capacity. Some of those have 12, some of them close to 15 rounds now that are really small. We're getting an average about 10 to 12 rounds in these small guns now in the 9mm. So the point of that is okay, so with those guns, you're telling me we're going to allow all the special people to have that. And we're going to tell, when they'll start bringing up all the other things wrong with them. They'll start, when you get rid of one type of gun, they'll say, well, this is what they did in every country. When they had registration, they took the guns in every country. They used the registration to take the guns. Registration doesn't stop a gun crime. Just no more than we register cars, why not register guns? Like I said, that car registration never stopped a person from driving drunk. That car registration never stopped someone from having a car accident. That car registration never stopped someone from speeding. Having a plate number, it may actually keep you from it because you can see the number, but you can't see a number on a gun. You can't walk in there with a firearm in the bank, rob the bank, and they can see the number on the gun. So therefore, the registration is not for crime deterrent. We already register the guns when they're sold the first time. If they're resold to an individual, then they're not always brought back and run back through the system. So in that case, yes, they're only registered to the original owner. If you do a nationwide registration, it would not prevent any crime. It would just be a way to track the guns, and the guns could still be used any way that you wanted to use them. So it's just a tracking method. That tracking method is a way to keep track. Why would you want to keep track? You want to keep track so you can take all of them or know where they're at to get them away from people. And that's the reason for the accounting of the guns. It's common sense. It's not paranoia. And if it's stupidity to think that right keeping a list of serial number of guns of who has what gun is going to stop that gun from being used in a crime. Never has before. All guns have somebody's name they go to, and they still get used in crimes every day. So anyway, this guy has no argument, and nobody does. Okay, the whole thing is we have them. They're out there. They're invented. You can say nobody needs them because you don't understand guns. The next thing is the 22 type caliber, the 223, 5.56. Like I said, they will say, well, the hunting weapons are much more powerful. Remember the AR-15s we got rid of? These are way, way more powerful than the AR-15. And when they show those how much bigger that those bullets in your average hunting gun is, between that and the animal rights idiots, they will find a reason that we need to get rid of those too and not allow those. That's what they've done in every country. They've taken the scary weapons first, and they've taken this stuff down to fucking revolvers. Then they've taken calibers and made caliber restrictions now to where some countries you can have maybe a 380 if you're lucky. Some countries you can have nothing. Some countries you can have a revolver. They make it where, that there's almost total prohibition, but the argument is exactly what I told you every time. The argument, the registration gets one type of gun, the argument on this other behalf. And when you look at the countries that took the guns, Australia, the UK, now New Zealand, for example, New Zealand's losing their freedom of speech. The UK is losing their freedom of speech. Australia is losing their freedom of speech. And they're talking about it. I put up a post the other day showing how they're losing their freedom to talk about what's going on in those countries. They are jailing people for talking about Muslim rapes, Islamic rapes. They're jailing people for reporting about it rather than jailing the rapists because they don't want a problem with the Muslim communities. This is a true thing. Look it up and do the research and you'll see what I'm talking about. The access to firearms is one of the few things that keep us safe from being taken over by either drug cartels, crazy religions, and not just the government. You talk about a government. The government isn't protecting us from so many things, and they're allowing so many things that we got to protect ourselves. They're not doing anything to stop this shit. When you got a government and they're not stopping constant illegal immigration coming in of God knows who don't have any kind of screening process when they sneak in here. There's no screening to keep the criminals from getting in. They don't care about any kind of laws to protect us. They don't care about looking out for us. We're full of rampant drugs in this country. They're selling our country out to China. They don't care. So why are we supposed to just give up our arms and lay down and let those people be kings and lord over us with their firearms, their police forces with their firearms? Why are we supposed to give in and let them have all the power? And basically, I watched this. I was sitting there watching these Democrats talk tonight, and everything they're saying is, this country is horrible. This country doesn't have this. It doesn't do that. It doesn't do this. Give us the money, we'll fix it. Give us the money, we'll fix it. They're like TV preachers. Most of you guys could watch a TV preacher telling you to give you money like that for hours and hours and give you control over the control, and you would say they're a fucking fool and they're a con artist. But you'll sit here and watch the same thing with the Democrat telling you, but then they're telling you, if you make some, we're not going to take your money. We're taking money from other people. We're going to get more of their money and do it with their money because they're bad because they're rich. We're going to take their money and give things to you, and we're going to make things better for you. You give their, and then they're going to want your money because just like historically, everywhere that they take the money, okay, everywhere they take the money, they eventually take more. Like Bernie Sanders admitted, you make $29,000, above $29,000 a year, they're going to start taking more money from you. They're going to have to. And they're going to take money from more and more money from people who make less. And that's what's going to happen. They're going to have to take money from everyone. People who never paid taxes or who got refunds are going to be paying in taxes because they're going to have to. And they're admitting they're going to have to do these tax increases, not just with the so-called rich, but everyone. The rich do pay, statistically, if you look it up, most of the taxes. You can blind yourself to it if you want, but let's look at the stats. The rich people pay more of the taxes than the people getting the tax refunds. All these people getting the tax refunds aren't paying taxes in, and they make a certain income. And those people who are getting child tax credits and all these things and not paying in anything and getting money back at the end of the year, why are they complaining about fair share when they're not paying a damn thing? And that's what my point is. That's a fact. That's not just something I'm saying. I mean, that's a fact. That's why there's a huge income tax industry, tax return industry at H&R Block and shit, because these people so many people get refunds. Okay, so if they're so worried about all these taxes, so you got your refund, but you're saying, well, I should get more of something I'm not getting enough. I'm not getting enough free shit. So I guess somebody with more money than me needs to be giving more for me to get it. This is where you guys really you say, if you want to sit here and lie to yourself and tell yourself that none of these problems exist, that you make laws to not punish people for crimes, and you let people come in the country, and you make sanctuaries for people who come in the country who, in many cases, if you look it up, are criminals. There's a lot of criminals coming in here that are going. You don't need a sanctuary city if you're not a criminal, but if you're a criminal, then you would need that to be left alone. So all this shit's going on, and they're not protecting us, and then they're telling us their police are corrupt and the police can't be trusted. And on one hand, and on the other hand, they're telling us, give us all the power, give us all the money, give us all the control. I don't understand why people don't see that. Why would you give more control to this government? This government's so corrupt. Why would you give more control? Even if you believe that you give it control to Bernie Sanders or Joe Biden, for example, what happens when they're gone and you give the government that much power? What happens if you get another Trump Jr. gets in there and then he's got way more power? If you give the government all that power, you can't just take it back. So if you give, say, if we're a socialist country and Bernie Sanders has all this power over your life and the government has all this power over your life and your income, and then he's out, and then a Republican that you don't like, that you hate worse than Donald Trump gets in, they're going to have the same amount of power. So there you go. Then you've got that. You say, well, what are we going to do? We get rid of this guy. Why? Well, we can't, because guess what? There's no way to get these people. We fight them back because we gave them all the fucking guns. So what are you going to do then? So if you really understand, if you think this country can be taken over by some fascists like you guys all say that they can, if you believe that to be true, then you need a way to fight fascism. And you can't just fight it holding up protest signs, can you? So you guys really need to start thinking about what you're giving away here. Regardless of what political side you're on, you're not thinking about what you're saying. You're not thinking about the reality of what you're doing. So therefore, think for your damn self for once. Think about, if I can pose these questions to you, you got no answers. You can roll your eyes and say I'm stupid, but you really can't answer that back in any other way but saying you're right. You can't say, well, yeah, what would happen if we got another president after we got our dream socialist presidents in here, and then we got a Republican in there that was somebody that we didn't agree with? Then, what would we do? Because they would have the same power as that last socialist that we had. What do we do about that guy? We can't. And he's got even more power over us because the government now has more power over us altogether. So he can do whatever he wants for 4 years. So then you're opening this man up to intruding in your life even more than Donald Trump can now with the conditions of America now. Donald Trump can only intrude in your life so much. But when somebody else gets in there, they can intrude even deeper if you give the government that much more power in your life. Think about that. And think about that, like I said, there may be somebody that's a real tyrant that you really don't like, and then we're giving away our ability to fight on both sides. If you can't fight back, if you have no way to fight back. And yes, you can fight back the government. Afghanistan did it. Vietnam did it. All these countries fought back with small arms. They managed to cause enough problems that we had to leave. So we're leaving Afghanistan now. We can't win it. Why can't we win it? They have small arms. They don't have drones and all this shit that we got, but we're still having been in there and stuck in there 19 years. So think about reality. Everything I say is not some exaggeration. It's reality. 40 Proposition 47. That's a real thing. Look it up. That's a real thing. That's going on. We want to start letting criminals out of jail early. We want to start not putting people in jail for things. And they're going to be out there doing what they want. They're going to try to push the envelope. And you need to see what I'm saying and think about what I'm saying is true things. It's not something because I'm a fucking conspiracy theorist. I'm giving you the information. Look up the information. It does exist. Look up the statistics. They do exist. Look up the histories of the things I'm saying. It exists. It's there. It's not on Alex Jones or something. It's real. Just look up the pure government numbers and you'll see what I'm talking about. Anyway, you guys think about it. Have a great day.